This is the reason Mick Jagger and Keith Richards chose several of the Rolling Stones hits. The Rolling Stones' 1964 cover of Buddy Holly's Not Fade Away was an important turning point when it became their first top 10 smash. But if the songwriting team of Mick Jagger and Keith Richards hadn't released That Girl Belongs to Yesterday the same year, they might have been able to reach this breakthrough success with their own original work. The two believed that it wasn't in line with the image they wanted to project at the time because they were still getting comfortable with writing lyrics. They frequently chose a more melancholy pop sound before refining their explosive blend of blues and rock. Given that Gene Pitney, who was influenced by doo-wop, quickly appropriated the song, That Girl Belongs to Yesterday, it was a good example of how distinct their prior sound was. It was improbable that he and the Stones would ever cross paths on their own, but their manager, Andrew Loog Oldham, had been promoting him in the UK. Pitney was by far the greater star at this point, but when he heard a song that Jagger and Richards had been experimenting with, he had a glimpse of the creative connection that would catapult them to prominence all over the world. Given the presence of many more seasoned collaborators around Pitney, taking the tune was rather hazardous. He experimented with the material and produced a single since it had much more financial potential for him than it did for the Stones. Pitney changed the song's original title from My Only Girl, polished the arrangement, and then released it in 1964. Pitney contributed a particularly Phil Spector-sounding swell of instruments because he had collaborated with the legendary producer during some of the Stones' earliest ever London sessions. The song wasn't warmly received by his current American fan base, but it peaked at number 7 in the UK charts, breaking the top 10. Since it was the first song by Jagger and Richards to reach that level on the charts before any of the original Stones music, this was actually more of a turning point for them than for him. As the Jagger-Richards chemistry got stronger, the band found their footing and became more confident as a result of the song's success, relying less on covers. You tend to compose things that are quite different from the things you're actually performing, as Richards said in his autobiography at first. It requires time. He talked briefly about the many songwriting techniques they had tried out in the beginning before The Last Time made its historic debut. Before that, he continued, we wrote the songs As Tears Go by Marianne Faithfull and That Girl Belongs to Yesterday, which Gene Pitney both had hits with. We had to search through all of that for nearly a year before we finally found tunes that we felt confident enough to record ourselves.